I've seen less tourists. Not seeing the real spending type of tourists that we had a couple months ago.
A drop in the number of visitors coming to California, and it's hurting the state's economy. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to West Coast Wrap. I'm Alex Savage. A new report out from the group Visit California shows a significant drop in international tourists, especially visitors from Canada. KTVU's Tom Vakar takes a closer look at the numbers tonight and looks at what's being done to convince people to come back to California.
A recent report from Visit California reveals that in March, California welcomed over 490,000 international visitors, a decline of 11% compared to March of 2024. When it comes to Canadian tourists, the drop was more than 15%. For decades, Kervin Samuel has been a Fisherman's Wharf street musician.
I've seen less tourists. Not seeing the real spending type of tourists that we had a couple months ago.
In San Francisco, though foreigners are about a third of the tourists, they spend almost twice as much money. Major attractions such as Pier 39 say it's business as usual so far, but they face a potential triple whammy this fall. One, the gift shops might not have enough merchandise, much of which is imported, not enough diners might come, and a big drop in foreign tourism is a real worry.
We haven't seen the impact yet on the international visitor. What we are expecting is that many people right now internationally are keeping the trips they already had planned.
Hotels are doing okay for now.
We're keeping a very close eye on the numbers into our airport. And we're paying attention to what the patterns and practices may be of a traveler. And we recognize there's a lot of uncertainty right now in the air.
For SFO, the only negative upcoming sign has to do with Canadian tourists.
We do know that some of the Canadian carriers are adjusting their summer travel schedule, citing some softer than usual demand.
Going into May is just the edge of the traditional vacation holiday season, so whatever numbers exist may be skewed for a lot of reasons. But come 5 or 6 weeks from now, we're going to have an incredibly good idea of how bad this has impacted the tourist trade.
I don't think that's impacting the travel as much as ICE is. The people are afraid that, if you don't have the exact perfect paperwork, you can get picked up.
But I have heard a lot of people being very, very negative with the tariff, yes.
Polish immigrants, now Americans, agree to disagree.
I think 100% on the side of President Trump. We still have to continue.
And do you think the tariffs have anything to do with that?
Of course, because everybody looking for price. Doesn't matter where they're going.
The acid test comes as soon as school's out and the 100 days that follow. Tom Vakar, KTVU Fox 2 News.
President Trump will mark his 100th day in office tomorrow, and he has moved quickly, trying to deliver on key campaign promises. The president signed over 135 executive orders. That's up from 33 during the same period in his first term in office. Political experts say President Trump's actions over the past 2.5 months, such as raising tariffs, carrying out mass deportations, and cutting government agencies, could have long-lasting effects for the country.
I think what's notable is he's done almost all of that without Congress, all on his own, really stretching or pushing the power of the presidency beyond what had been its limits.
A Fox News poll, however, shows growing concern over President Trump's policies, even among his supporters. While 55% approve of his border security efforts, more disapprove of his handling on immigration, foreign policy, the economy, and tariffs. President Trump is touting his administration's immigration crackdown despite concerns about due process. The president signed an executive order today directing officials to identify cities and states that are failing to sufficiently comply with federal immigration laws.
And it will direct the Attorney General and Secretary of Homeland Security to publish a list of state and local jurisdictions that obstruct the enforcement of federal immigration laws.
Trump.
I said from day one, you don't have to support ICE's operations. You can support sanctuary cities if that's what you desire to do. Sanctuary cities can stand aside and watch ICE keep their communities safe Because any public official, whether you're mayor, city councilman, or governor, their number one responsibility is protection of the communities.
And that is President Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, who says U.S. Border Patrol arrested 7,200 migrants illegally crossing the border in March. That's the lowest monthly total in 25 years and down from a peak of 250,000 in December of 2023. Now, this all comes as the Justice Department says an immigration raid in Colorado over the weekend resulted in the arrests of more than 100 suspected undocumented immigrants. Attorney General Pam Bondi says this club in Colorado Springs is often frequented by, quote, TDA and MS-13 terrorists. The DEA says cocaine and weapons were seized during that raid. Federal law enforcement reports more than 200 people were inside the club at the time of that raid. Well, one small town in Oregon is dealing with the impact of federal funding cuts that were part of the one-year spending plan that Congress passed last month in an effort to avert a government shutdown. Fox 12's Anna Katayama has more tonight on the sewage problems seeping into some neighborhoods.
Nestled in the rolling hills of Oregon's wine country, Carlton oozes small-town charm. But pressure is growing to take care of a problem beneath its streets.
It started down over here, and then it kind of went probably about 5 feet into our flower bed section. Everything in the front flower bed was underwater.
The Larson family didn't want to show their faces on camera, but were willing to share what happened in front of their house on Carlton's East Main Street. A portion of their front yard flooded with what looked to them like sewer water.
Well, there was like toilet paper and some miscellaneous. It was like a gray water. It wasn't like just clean water.
Indeed, the sewer main did break in front of their house. They say the water seeped up from underground, even through seams in the sidewalk. Carlton has thousands of feet of sewer pipe that's nearing 100 years old. Sewer leaks and potholes are catching people's attention.
We've seen that. We've seen more than the normal, typical share in Carlton.
The Oregon Department of Transportation says excessive moisture underground from sewer pipes and other sources has created a number of potholes on Highway 47, which runs through Carlton. ODOT has been making temporary repairs, but until the source of the moisture is addressed, a permanent fix is elusive.
In the last several years, we have seen it go up significantly to the point where we are really happy to hear that the city is going to do something about it.
With the help of Congresswoman Andrea Salinas, Carlton was set to receive $1 million to upgrade its sewer system. But the one-year spending plan passed by Congress last month cut Carlton's funding and funding for many other projects in rural communities.
A city like Carlton depends on federal funding, I think, more than most other types of towns and cities. They have fewer taxpayers to spread across their ratepayer base. So when it comes to infrastructure projects, things like sewer or new water projects, they have fewer taxpayers to spread out those additional costs.
Sewer and water rates are going up.
They're worried, infrastructure's failing.
Catherine Dorner lives down the street from the Larson family.
Yeah, people are pretty shocked by it and are not really understanding exactly why their rates are so high.
With fewer residents, Selena says rural communities often need federal assistance for major projects. She says her district was set to receive $12 million for various community projects, but all of that funding got cut by Congress last month.
What does that mean for us? Are our rates going to go up? How are we going to get the money to keep fixing this infrastructure?
It kind of surprised me coming out and finding that.
It's easy to ignore what's happening underground until it shows up in front of your house.
They were out here till after midnight digging it up, and they found the line.
He says crews got the leak fixed.
The one guy kind of explained it was more or less like a Band-Aid.
Leaving residents wondering when and where the next break will happen.
This can has been kicked down the road way too many times. We really need to do something about it now.
And that was Fox 12's Anna Katayama reporting tonight. Many other Oregon communities also had funding for their community projects cut off when Congress passed that one-year spending resolution last month. City officials in the town of Carlton say they do remain optimistic and will continue seeking out federal funding. We turn now to the tragedy in Vancouver, Canada, where 11 people were killed and dozens more injured after a car plowed through a crowded street during a Filipino Heritage Festival over the weekend. A memorial at that site is growing tonight as we learn more about some of the victims. Among those killed, 5-year-old Katie Lee, her father Richard Lee, and her stepmother Lynn Huang. Another victim has been identified as Kira Salim, a teacher and counselor who worked at 2 schools in the Vancouver area. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney placed flowers at the memorial, lighting a candle for the victims. And a man has now been charged with murder in connection with that attack that happened on Saturday night. Vancouver police say 30-year-old Kaiji Lim is accused of ramming his SUV into that crowd during the Lapu-Lapu Street Festival. Lim is charged with 8 counts of second-degree murder, and more charges are expected. Authorities say the man has a significant history of interactions with police and mental health care professionals.
We've never experienced a crime to this scale, a crime this horrific. It's shaken all of us, it's gutted all of us, and we're all going to pull together to get through this.
At least a dozen people remained hospitalized as of late Sunday night. Vancouver's mayor has said the suspect's mental health may have been a factor in the deadly attack. The suspect remains in custody tonight. His next court appearance is set for May 26th. Tonight, police in Arizona have arrested a man accused of intentionally setting a fire at a Tesla dealership. This happened in the overnight hours at the dealership in Mesa, just east of Phoenix. A Tesla Cybertruck was damaged in that fire, and the word thief was spray painted on the side of the building. Officers at the scene arrested the suspected arsonist, identified as 35-year-old Ian Moses. Investigators say he was spotted riding his bike to a suspicious van that was waiting nearby. Police have not revealed a motive for this crime. They're now working with the ATF on this investigation. Tonight, tens of thousands of LA County employees are on strike, and this walkout is expected to have a major impact on services all across the county. The strike began at 7 o'clock tonight, and it's expected to last for 48 hours. This action involves more than 55,000 county employees, including public health care professionals, social workers, parks and recreation staff, as well as public works personnel. Union leaders claim the county has failed to bargain in good faith, which the county's chief executive denies. Coming up tonight here on West Coast Wrap, more people trying to strike gold with prices for the precious metal on the rise. Tonight we follow along with one Arizona prospector. Plus, as people here in the West and around the world continue to mourn Pope Francis, the process to select his successor begins. Up next, we'll break down how this will play out.
And a live look here over the San Francisco Bay Area, where a warming trend kicked underway today. A better look at what we can expect for the West come tomorrow, coming up.
The rising price of gold is leading to a modern-day rush in some parts of Arizona. More people are out searching for the precious metal, now selling at more than $3,300 an ounce in Arizona. One gold prospector says gold can be found just about anywhere in the state. It's mostly a matter of finding it in concentration and knowing where to look. Since gold is heavier than dirt, it should get trapped in a carpet-like material being used to separate the elements.
I don't know if you'll find $1 million worth of gold, but you could find some pretty nice pieces out here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 colors there.
Oh,
Any
yeah.
little speck of gold.
I mean, how much is that worth right there?
About $1.50 or $2 right there.
All right, you got to find a few more pieces. One prospector at Pay Streak Gold Panning and Prospecting Adventures in Morristown says it takes a lot of patience to strike gold, typically returning with small flakes like the ones that we just showed you there to showcase to more gold hunting hopefuls. A dramatic rescue in the San Bernardino Mountains after a motorcycle crash in the Cajon area. Fire crews say the rider here went about 100 feet off the roadway. Urban search and rescue teams used specialized all-terrain response vehicles and a rope system to bring that rider safely back up to the road. The patient suffered moderate injuries and was taken to a trauma center by ambulance. Crews say the area's steep slopes and strong winds made this rescue especially challenging. Okay, let's shift here and talk about our weather here in the West, because we saw a warm-up across much of the West Coast here, but Meteorologist Rosemary Orozco from KTVU is here to tell us it's not going to last too long.
You're right, Alex. So we're going to see this warming trend for just a few days. And then as we get to the back end of the business week, we are looking at temperatures cooling down and unsettled weather back in the forecast. Here is a beautiful view over San Francisco. We started out with some cloud cover out there today, but the afternoon sunshine really helped to warm things up. And many areas were several degrees above yesterday. As we roll into the afternoon, we are looking at temperatures to continue to climb into Tuesday over parts of California, but not the case in Seattle, where today it was a little soggy out there and 55 degrees reported over Washington. In the days ahead, the unsettled weather will continue there. Meanwhile, over the desert Southwest in Phoenix this afternoon, 82 degrees, which is actually below average for this time of year, but Phoenix is expected to see a rebound in the temperatures there. How about California? Southern California, Los Angeles, 68 today, and Southern California also getting in on the warming trend. And one more stop here, San Francisco, where temperatures were in the low 60s for the second half. A look at some of the afternoon highs across the region. Las Vegas coming in at 75, Palm Springs 86, Sacramento reported 80 degrees, so nice and warm after a pretty soggy, cool weekend for California. The temperatures in and around right now, we've got the Pacific Northwest reporting 53 degrees in Seattle and 78 reported in Phoenix. As we get into the West Coast satellite radar here, a system that pushed through California now over the Intermountain West, going to sink into areas of Arizona by tomorrow. Meanwhile, more wet weather in store for the Pacific Northwest, and that will again make tracks towards the Intermountain West, keeping the showers going there in areas like Denver. The Futurecast model will show you just that as we get into the afternoon tomorrow. We've got some wet weather over the Pacific Northwest, and we've got scattered showers over the Intermountain West. Meanwhile, California will continue to see a warm up into the days ahead before things start to change a little bit closer to the weekend. Here's a look at the 3-day outlook for the California area, both northern and southern, continuing to see temperatures climb. Meanwhile, the Pacific Northwest will remain cool and soggy for Tuesday, and better weather expected Wednesday into Thursday. A little bit of a break in the rain before it returns on Friday. Meanwhile, the Intermountain West will have scattered showers, and for the Phoenix area, going to rebound with temperatures back into the low 90s for the days ahead. Alex.
Rosemary, thank you. The Vatican has announced the conclave to select a new pope will begin next Wednesday, May 7th. It will be held at the Sistine Chapel, which is now closed to the public in preparation for the secret gathering of cardinals. Fox's Alex Hogan has more tonight from Rome.
I thought that was really amazing. It's really humbling to be able to be here.
More than 70,000 people visited the Pope's tomb on Sunday, a day after he was laid to rest at St. Mary Major Basilica. And now we're learning more about the process to replace him. The Sistine Chapel has been sealed off, and cardinals announced Monday that the conclave will begin on May 7th. Some are already pushing for candidates from their own backyards.
Even if we get a good number of votes for a person from Africa, it would be a good sign. But that's where the church is quite vigorous and growing all the time.
But there's also a growing ideological divide. Some conservatives want to refocus the church back to its core principles. But a growing number of cardinals have said they're hoping for a pope that would carry on Francis's work with the poor and marginalized communities.
It's completely clear that we must continue on this path. I think the entire world has this intention. He doesn't need to be the same as Francis, but not lose the path that Francis started.
And that's a view shared by most of the visitors to St. Peter's and the Pope's tomb at St. Mary Major. Many say it's a bittersweet experience, but they have faith church leaders will make the right choice.
It's a mixed emotion. It's sad that we don't get popes like this very often, and we hope that the next pope will continue the same as he has done.
Cardinals say once the conclave starts, they hope to have a decision within 2 to 3 days. In Rome, Alex Hogan, KTVU, Fox 2 News.
I thought there would be no possible way that would be a survivable accident.
Tonight, witnesses are describing these terrifying moments on the water in Arizona as a speedboat goes airborne, injuring the 2 people inside. Plus, the deadline to get a real ID is quickly approaching. What you need to know if you're heading to a DMV office here in the West. Tonight, we're hearing from witnesses to a shocking scene on Lake Havasu in Arizona. That's where a speedboat went airborne over the weekend and flipped over. But incredibly, the racing team inside survived the crash. Fox 10's Ashley Rodriguez talked with one man who watched all of it unfold.
It made an explosion sound that I can't even describe it to you, other than it sounded like a bomb went off.
Reaction to the 200-mile-per-hour speedboat crash on Friday at the Desert Storm race at Lake Havasu was utter shock. But Scott Nolan was on the water.
This boat was coming down the course very, very fast.
He was in his pontoon when it happened.
It was just the scariest thing as a boater that I've witnessed. I thought there would be no possible way that would be a survivable accident, but from what I'm hearing, they hit the water upside down at 165.
The drivers, who wished to remain anonymous, survived, walking away with a broken collarbone, couple broken ribs, and a fractured knee.
You know, that's just how we park that thing sometimes. There's nothing you can do about it. Might have been upside down and backwards across the finish line, but we did win the event.
The video would soon go viral over the weekend, bringing attention to their 501c3 nonprofit that raises money for a variety of charities, including St. Jude's and Wounded Warriors. They went home with the prize, donating $20,000 to good causes.
The fact that it went as viral as it did really just helps us, set in stone that we're on a good mission. We're doing the right thing. There's a reason those drivers survived, and I think it's to keep going, keep moving forward, and keep raising money for charity.
And that was Fox 10's Ashley Rodriguez reporting tonight from Arizona. That specialized boat went from 40 miles per hour up to 200 miles per hour. And officials say at the end of that racetrack on Lake Havasu, there is a cove where the wind moves up from the south, and they believe that is likely what caused the boat to take air the way it did. All right, there's only a week and a half left now until the deadline to have a real ID. You need one in order to board domestic flights at airports all across the U.S. The deadline is May 7th. Those new IDs are meant to be more difficult to counterfeit with enhanced security protections. Congress first passed this requirement back in 2005, but it has been delayed a number of times. Some states are asking for another extension now, saying that this will cause unnecessary hardship. If you don't have one of these real IDs by the May 7th deadline, you will have to carry a passport or military ID in order to board a flight. The clock is ticking. Time to get one of those real IDs. That does it for West Coast Wrap tonight. A quick reminder before we head out, you can stay up to date on all the big stories we're covering across the West at westcoastwrap.com. And you can stream our shows on your smart TV. All you need to do is download the free Fox Local app. We'll leave you with this shot of the San Francisco Bay. Have a great night.